Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we are here at 10 a.m. Eastern every Friday to talk about publishing, writing, and the business of being an author. You're welcome to join us live by going to newshelves.com/FAF. Registration is completely free to join us, but registration is required. And we answer your questions. You can also email in your questions to info, at newshelves.com. We answer those as we are able, and then you can watch the replays over on YouTube. So for those who are here today, thank you. We've got some questions in the chat as well as a couple of emailed questions. So we will start it off with Dan's question about if there are any specific author writers conferences that are Christian or faith-based that I would recommend. So I have not personally been a part of a Christian or a faith-based writers conference, but I know that they are out there. Honestly, the best way to do it would be to search simply Christian writers conferences. I did that and I found a list over here on the book. It's book-publicist.com, and they have a bunch of lists. And so many of them have passed in the spring, but I'm seeing a Florida Christian Writers Conference in October that's in Florida, Vision Christian Writers Conference in California, C.S. Lewis Writers Conference in, where is that one? Colorado. So they are definitely out there. And I would say, number one, it's fantastic to go to any writers conference or author conference because the thing about being an author is it's very often kind of this lonely thing in the sense that we may have people who love us, who cheer us on, who are like, yeah, you're writing, that's cool. You may have online friends that you write with or pass things back and forth with, but it's not very often that you go into a room filled with people who understand what it is to write, to publish, maybe that's really into it, that understands that you can talk to about it. And so conferences are really so nice. And I love online events. I mean, obviously, we have Free Advice Friday, which I love, and we've built a really lovely community here. But there's something about being in a room with other people who all get it and learning together and just chatting. And so, in person conferences, I will say, are always going to have a place in my heart. I love being a part of them, I love teaching at them. And so, if you are looking for a conference, certainly you can go across the world. I mean, I know someone who went to Dubai for a writers' conference because they wanted to go to Dubai. I know people who very often, if money is, it's not in the budget to go on a big trip, then maybe you simply find writers' conferences that are close to you or with driving distance. And the best way to find those, quite honestly, is simply to just Google search. Do a Google search for your state plus writers conference, or if you have a specific topic. A lot of writers conferences, many of them are kind of general. They're just for authors. They're for new authors or self-published authors, whatever it is. But a lot of them kind of fit across many genres. But there are also genre specific, or there will be like faith-based conferences and things like that. And again, a Google Christian Writers Conference 2024 in a Google search will pull up a lot of information that you can then look through. And if you're looking for a romance conference, Romance Writers Conference 2024. If you want to see if there's something close to you, Writers Conference New York 2024. So that's what I would do when I'm looking for conferences. And then once you start to find conferences, then you can, search and Google those conferences specifically to see what kind of feedback they've gotten. You can always ask here. Well, I haven't attended every conference for sure. I have been a part of many of them. Bob's asking about the Hawaii Writing Conference. I wish I was going, Bob. I've heard nothing but good things about that conference. So if you have the chance to go, definitely take that. And again, local conferences can be so easy. You do not have to travel. And a local conference means that maybe you don't even have to have a hotel. You can just drive there for the day. A lot of conferences will be 2 to 3 days, typically over a weekend. But I will also say that many conferences, when it gets towards the end, if they haven't completely sold out of seats, they will sell day tickets for locals who maybe are just coming in. So you can come in for a day, usually at a reduced price. You're not paying for a hotel and everything like that. Um, yes. And that's great from Jane there. Yeah. And Walt's saying he always goes to local conferences, as most conferences that he's attended have been predominantly female, and he's yet been able to tell his wife he's just going to go. And I mean, that's true. Sometimes, I mean, I've been to conferences where I've been away. I take my husband with me. I mean, he willingly comes. It's not like I kidnap him, but he comes with me. We'll go for a weekend and I'll be in conferences during the day and he'll go do his own thing. Or I've actually gone when Amy and I went to Scotland to speak at the conference there. We both had our husbands with us. And so during the day, while we were teaching and doing writer things and working, they were off having a great time exploring Scotland. And so they kind of had their own thing to do. My husband sometimes is like, yeah, you go teach. I'm just going to stay here in bed watching TV, which is not something with two middle grade kids that we get to do often. And he was very happy. Local conferences can be a great thing. Really, really don't be afraid to go in there. And I promise people are nice. It is not, I would like to say it's not like the lunch table at school, but um, fun fact about me, you may not know, I was homeschooled. And so I never went to school, or I never went to like a real school or a public school until I went to college. So I don't know about the lunch table, but it's not like what I imagine the lunch table to be, where you walk in and then you really have nowhere to sit. Author conferences, so many people are coming from different places around the world. Some people know each other from different things, a lot of people won't. And overwhelmingly, people are so, so welcoming. I actually, and I can extrovert pretty hard, but I actually have this thing where I will go find a table, because usually it's in tables like round tables. And typically I will go find a round table where no one's talking to each other. Not that they look busy, but no one's really talking to each other. And I plop myself down and ask if I can sit there and start talking. Now, does it annoy some people? Maybe. But overall, I think it's just we needed an icebreaker. No one knew anybody. So it's a very welcoming environment. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to meet people and kind of explore. So don't be afraid to do that, whether it be a big trip or if it's really going elsewhere in traveling local, whatever it may be, and bring a friend if you want to. Um, and sometimes it's definitely the size of different things as well. Yeah. Yeah, Charlotte's saying ipne.org has a 2-day Zoom conference focusing on the publishing process. And I just confirmed I'll be speaking at that one. So that will be fun. I think I'm in for I think I'll be speaking on a Saturday slot, and that's in November. So if you like online conferences, that's a good one. Bob saying he goes to Irma Bombeck every year, and it's 99% women. Um, there are a lot of women writers, and I will say that in my experience, women tend to be more outgoing in the sense that they will just go, they will just travel, they'll go on their own, they'll find a friend. Men don't tend to, in my experience, do that quite as often. Um, but that's not to say men don't go. Find a male, right? Well, if you are looking for another man to go with you and you're feeling like you're kind of one off, find a guy's writing group online and then, ask people, hey, you want to meet me here? And it can be a lot of fun. But yes, extremely, extremely just wonderful. Yes, actually, and Jess is saying that she met her best writing buddies at a conference, and that's how she got her agent too. And I met her through her agent, so you can see how it's kind of this web of like opportunity when you go. I always leave conferences exhausted, but I I work from home. I do a lot of things at home in my little bubble. I talk a lot on Zoom, but I don't go out all the time. And then I go to conferences and I extrovert hard. I talk to everyone. I stay up late. I do all the things. So I leave exhausted, but so, so happy and rejuvenated. And I've made some of my best connections at conferences, both in person and online. So, Cheryl, I did not see that question, but if you want to put the full question in the chat, then I will sure answer it for you. I'm sorry, not in the chat. If you put the full question in the Q&A. Let's see. And yes, so a list of conferences, again, Google is the best way. For anyone in the Charlotte area, I will be in Charlotte at a in-person conference in October. Alexa, Big Wharf, and I are teaming up for an in-person conference. I'll drop that right in the chat as well. So that'll be a fun one. That's a weekend conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. All right, I'm going to hop over to our next question here. And this one is from Linda. Let's see. Question is for nonfiction books. Is it important to send out art copies and request endorsements? So this answer is almost always yes, but the importance for nonfiction is even more important than usual, in my opinion. So let's talk about endorsements, or blurbs as they're often called. This is when you send out an advanced copy of your book to different people. It could be another author. If you are in nonfiction, it could be someone who is a professional in the industry. It could be someone who's at the top of their field. It could be if you have a children's book, your endorsements may be from parents, grandparents, teachers, librarians. If you have a Christian nonfiction book, it may be from a well-known Christian speaker, it might be from a music artist or a pastor or someone of that guild, someone who's written nonfiction Christian books. If you are a fiction or a fiction author, really across the board, it may be other authors who write in your genre, who have a well-known name, who are kind of trending. And the reason why we get these endorsements, or try to get them, and the reason why they're important, is because when we get an endorsement from these people, it lends us and our book social credibility. So if you are a new author, or you're an author who has a couple books out, but who hasn't really broken out and had a huge success quite yet, when you get an endorsement from a well-known name or someone who has credentials at the end of their name that make them a expert in that topic or that industry, they are essentially lending you their credibility to use in your marketing. Because if I'm a mom, I am a mom, but if I'm a mom and there is a book all about if there's a book all about how to help kids adjust to middle school, let's say, and I'm a mom, and on the front cover of this book is a quote from a pediatrician or a quote from a well-known author who writes a lot or speaks a lot on, raising kids or middle grade or whatever it is, then I immediately feel more secure about buying your book. Not only can I be impressed by your book and your marketing copy and what the book's about, but I have a little bit more trust that you know what you're talking about, that you're going to deliver on the promises that you put on the back of your book cover. And that's why endorsements are so very important, because when you do that, you have that social credibility and you can market with it. The best book on parenting, as quoted by whatever big organization that's all about, parenting, or if there is a fiction book, unputdownable. Well, I think that's one word, unputdownable, from a well-known thriller author on your new thriller is going to be marketing gold, because then suddenly you're appealing to everyone who reads that other author's book. They've lent you their social credibility. Now, at the same time, keep in mind that while endorsements are wonderful for this reason, sometimes endorsements are hard to come by for the same exact reason. Because if someone is going to endorse your book, review your book, publicly put their name on it, especially if they work in the industry, then They really have to like it. Guess what? You're not likely to get a great blurb from someone who didn't really like your book. If someone has completely different religious philosophies from you, or they think you misrepresented something, then they are not going to endorse your book. In fact, there are some people, depending on the industry, I have some people who work in certain industries who, before they're allowed to endorse a book, the legal team has to read the book. Then the legal team has to approve the endorsement. And so it's not just like, hey, can you say something nice about me? It's like this whole thing. So you're not always going to get an endorsement when you ask for it, but you should always ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get. And my policy is that when you're coming out with a book and you're thinking about who you'd like to review or endorse your book, this is not like reader reviews. This is not, hey, will you go review my book on Amazon? That's a different set. This is something you want to use for marketing and social proof. I usually suggest to make a list of 30 potential endorsers, and I go in groups of 10. 10 people you think their name or their title gives them credibility, and you are fairly certain you can reach them. Whether or not they'll endorse it, you don't know, but you have contacts. So your local pediatrician, mom's, grandma, your son's teacher, whatever it may be. That would be my top 10. The next 10 is people that, they maybe have had some books out, or maybe they have a more credibility. They're a speaker. Maybe they're a TikTok influencer. I don't know. But then those people are still pretty reachable. It's not like you can only find them if you're going through an agent or like some media contact. You can still probably reach them, but it's going to be a little bit harder. And, they might not say yes because, again, they don't know you. So we kind of have our more likely to reach, are harder to reach, and then we have our pie in the sky. If this person ever responded to my email, I might pass out. And there's 10 there. They will be the hardest to get in contact with. They will be the hardest to find an email address for. Many of them you may have to go through their agent. You're going to have to do some digging. And even if you get the right email address, you have no confidence that they themselves will actually read that email. Maybe an assistant will, maybe someone will get back to you, maybe they won't. That's not the point. The point is that if you got this, it would be amazing. So I would say that's your 30, 10, 10, and 10. And then you reach out to them. You reach out to all of them with the same request. Do keep in mind that if you're asking for an endorsement, it's people you know really well, then maybe using a PDF of your book would be fine. But anyone else, you should have print copies of your book available to send out to ask for those endorsements. I always, if you are willing, I would absolutely love to send you an ebook or print copy. Just let me know your preference. So you offer both. And some people will be like, yeah, just send over an ebook, a PDF. And a lot of people actually like the print book. So make sure you have those available and you're willing to ship those. Make sure you know the shipping rules if you're pitching to someone who lives outside of your country, because that can get expensive and sometimes it's more of a process. But ask, because I will tell you, I have had authors get responses from those pie in the sky. I've had some authors get responses that are, I'm so busy and I'm not able to commit to this, but I wish you the very best of luck, which is just kind of cool and exciting to get that response. And I have had authors actually, get a response of, I can't promise anything, but go ahead and send me the book. Here's my P.O. box. And they've sent it in. I've had authors get quotes from really well-known authors, celebrities, different things like that. And they got them not because, I mean, yes, their books were good, but not because they were lucky. Not, well, it's because they were lucky. It's because they took an opportunity, because they put in the legwork so that they created the opportunity for a yes. And then when there's that little bit of luck or pixie dust or whatever you want to call it, then you get that response. So if you don't put in the work, if you don't try, you can't get. So I do recommend that you reach out for endorsements. It does not have to be hard. I recommend you kind of get a template letter of like how you would pitch out an endorsement, kind of create one. From there, it's a copy and paste with some personalization. I always use the first sentence or two. I call it my connector sentence. Hi, Jane. My name is Keri. I've been following your newsletter and your blog for years, and it's been so helpful to me. And then I go into, I recently wrote a book because first we want to connect. We want to tell these people why we want to connect to them, why their opinion matters beyond just, hey, you're a celebrity and you have a big name. We want to connect with them. I'm also an author from this state. We went to the same high school, although different years, whatever it may be. A connector sentence is really important. It tends to get people's attention much more quickly than I wrote a new book. And then you kind of copy and paste and you just adjust and make it personal to each person from there. So once you get your endorsement letter, I am a spreadsheet girl. So I keep a spreadsheet of my 10, no, my 10, 10, and 10 of probably easy to reach and how I'm going to reach them, then the harder to reach, and then pie in the sky. And I keep a list of those people. I try to find their email addresses, or if I know I can contact them because I have their phone number or whatever it may be. And then I kind of track who I've reached out to. And um, keep in mind that if you are asking for endorsements, especially from people who are celebrity, big name, probably busy, you need to give adequate time in order for them to get an endorsement to you. Please do not say, I'm going to be publishing my novel in 3 weeks and I'd love an endorsement from you or a blurb or a review from you. That's not enough time. You need to typically give, especially people who are most likely very busy, celebrity, have a long line. You need to give them 3 to 6 months at least for that book. At least reach out, let them know if the book is coming, that kind of thing. So you need to work in some lead time. You may get your sister to give you a quote in 3 weeks, but you're not getting a celebrity or a very well-known author to give you a quote in that time, unless they are your sister, in which case you might be able to get it. So endorsements are important for sure. They are different from like Amazon reviews because in the most case, these people are not going to go leave an Amazon review. They are giving you an endorsement you can use in your editorial reviews on Amazon. They're giving you an endorsement you can use on your book cover. Typically, it's understood that if you are asking for an endorsement, this is for public use and marketing. So definitely do that. Let's see. Um, do you recommend to buy a domain or imprint name? So I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Cheryl. If you're asking to buy a domain for your website, I think authors should have a website. It is kind of their home online, and you do need to kind of buy a domain name to use under that. For example, mine is New Shelves or newshelves.com. I also have KeriBarnum.com, KeriRayBarnum.com. There's nothing on them, but I have them. So I have those domain names. So I do recommend that you buy a domain name if you are doing a website. An imprint name is typically just the name that you publish your book under. So I'm not quite sure what the question is there. With self-publishing, what is the argument against starting a publicity campaign after your book is published and available? I have no arguments against a publicity campaign pretty much ever. Um, nope, don't have one. I think there are some considerations for how you go about doing a publicity campaign or how you go about spending your money after a book is published. For example, if a book has been out for a long time, if it's been out 2 years, it's not going to make news, probably. I mean, unless it ties into a current topic or something like that. Your book is kind of older. It's not going to appeal to bookstores as much 2 years in, although you may still be able to get signings if you have a local connection, you grew up there, you live there, something like that. But it's not really trending news. Your chance for editorial reviews is kind of gone because they require those 3 to 6 months prior to publication. So there's certain things that I kind of cross off the list as that time has passed. However, there's a lot you can still do. Does your book tie into current events? Can you do ebook promotions to kind of rejuvenate sales? Can you start guest blogging on the topics in your book and start, getting some publicity that way? It really just depends on what you're doing with the book. And I think it's all about being realistic and honest with yourself. I've had authors say, I know my book's 3 years old, but I think it's still newsworthy. Fantastic. Tie it into the news and I'll believe you. But otherwise, that chance is sailed. Focus on your advertising, your marketing, or different publicity tie-ins that are current right now. So I think that's one of the things to consider is you really have to be realistic with yourself. Some publicity companies will try to sell you, oh yeah, we can do a press release. We can get your book into the news. A press release is not the same as getting your book into the news. A press release is something you write that you can put on any number of press release um, sites where they will actually push it out for you. I have a whole article on it on News Shelves about how to write a press release and the companies that will push it out for you. Press releases are fantastic for getting SEO. They are fantastic for kind of getting the initial news out there. But again, unless it ties into the news, your book is not news. You have to make your book news. If you can tie it into something, if you can talk about why it's exciting, that kind of thing, then you'll be able to do that. But again, if your book is a couple months old, you've really got to work to find a publicity tie-in. I'm going to drop the press release blog here in the chat. For anyone who's watching on Facebook or the replay, just go to newshelves.com, go to the blog, and you'll find it, or you can type in press release in the search bar and you'll find it there. So those things, they're not your best use of time, effort, or funds. And if someone's trying to sell you publicity or a press release and things as something that will help you sell books when your book's been out several months, even if your book's been out not at all. I mean, a press release creates awareness. It doesn't create sales. There is a difference. Ads create sales. A press release just creates awareness and SEO, which is a valuable tool, but it's not going to create sales in most instances. Now, if there is something viral happening and you can tie it into the news and you can get features or you can get interviewed, that might sell books, but that's a little bit different. But it's never too late to market a book. It's never too late to run ads. It's never too late to do a ebook promotion. Actually, I have read, you guys know I'm a newsletter junkie. So if it is something about publishing, marketing, writing, I've probably subscribed to it. And I have read ad nauseum, I have heard over and over again that you cannot get a BookBub deal unless you have 50 reviews. Don't even try. I have heard that, there's certain things you have to hit. Guys, I got a BookBub deal for a client this week. The book has been out 2 years and has 2 reviews. 2 years, 2 reviews. This book was not marketed when it first came out. And I said, hey, I don't know if they'll take it, but if we don't try, we're not going to get it. It is free to submit to BookBub for a feature deal. If you get it, I think it's a great opportunity to get you sales to kind of give life back to this book in this book series. It's a first in a series. And if you don't get it, you really don't lose anything. So we submitted to BookBub. This book in particular was, I think, set at $4.99. We submitted it for a 99-cent deal and we got it. So this book is now going to go out in August at a 99-cent deal with 2 reviews. And that is going to get her sales and awareness of this book, this series. And it's also hopefully going to bleed over into sales for the second book and the third book, which we're about to release. Actually, the third book releases on the day she got a BookBub. So again, sometimes there's a little bit of pixie dust in there. But it's never too late to try and market. Publicity, you have to be smart with, but marketing you can always do. Run those ads, try a BookBub. And if you are marketing and you're not getting sales, then follow the data. Why are you not getting sales? If you're running Facebook ads and you're getting thousands of clicks and no orders, no page reads, why? Where are you losing them? Because if you're getting clicks, they're interested in your book. So you're either targeting to the wrong audience or they're getting to your sales page and you're losing them there. Well, what's on your sales page? Your book description and your price. Adjust your price, adjust your book description and see if it helps. But if you are not marketing your book is not going to sell. There is organic reach and we should do that. I just taught a class on that Wednesday on Amazon algorithms and how we can get organic reach on Amazon. And we should be optimizing our books for that. But honestly, if you're not marketing your book, people are not very likely to just accidentally stumble on it. We have to do some of the work to help people find it and discover it so that people can read it. And that does take work. Oftentimes, you've heard me say it a bunch of times. Book marketing takes time, money, or both. And so you have to take stock of what you have and just use it wisely and, try that out there. But yes, I do think that it's never too late to market a book. Well, I shouldn't say never. If your book is like 20 years old and no longer available, it's probably too late. But if your book is still available, then in most cases, you could still market it. So caveat there. All right, let's see here. How do you get a print copy of your book from reviewers when it will not be released until mid-January? So if you would like print copies of your book now in July and the book's not being released for January, there are a couple of ways to do it. You can go through somewhere like a local printer and get a small number of copies made, probably going to be pretty expensive per copy, but you can do that. You can go through somewhere like I think it's 48-hour books will do something like that. But honestly, my favorite way to do it that's easiest, well, there's two ways. You can either put your book for pre-order up on Ingram Spark. So that means your book is going to be passing through the Ingram Spark review system, and then you put it up for sale. Now, this is on pre-orders. We talked about pre-orders a couple weeks ago. Be smart about it. Put your book as non-returnable for pre-orders and put the discount at 40%. That way, Amazon doesn't buy a bunch of copies and then return it. But you can have your book on pre-order for 6 months throughout your entire publicity campaign for the paperback. And that is what traditional publishers do. And this is what I often do for big book launch campaigns. So you put it up on pre-order. As soon as it passes through Ingram Spark system and goes up on pre-order, you can override the sale date to order your own authored copies, and you can order them that way. Now, if you are not quite ready to put your book up on pre-order for whatever reason, you can also upload your book to Ingram Spark. But when you upload it to Ingram Spark, there's a question that asks if you are uploading to print, sell, and distribute or print only. You're going to choose the print only selection. Then when it comes time to put in an ISBN, under where it says ISBN, there's a little spot that says request a non-distributable, let's try that again, non-distributable SKU. Ooh, did it. And that is essentially a number. It's an internal number through Ingram Spark that does not use your ISBN that allows you to list the book on your account only on Ingram Spark so that you can order ARC copies of the book prior to ever listing your book, ever using your ISBN. So you can do that as well, and you can order print copies. It is not hard. I did this for ARC copies for a client. I think I did it a week ago. It took me less than 5 minutes to upload the book to Ingram Spark for print only through that account. And it was approved within 2 days, and we were able to order proof copies. Now, what's nice about ordering from Ingram Spark is if you have uploaded your book to KDP and you've ordered a proof ever before, you know there's this banner that says not for resale, and it's kind of not pretty and it doesn't look great. Well, when you do proof copies, or if you order copies from Ingram Spark prior to the book being live, doesn't have that. It looks like the final copy. So that's one reason why I like to use it. And in fact, if you are doing true ARC copies, you don't want to do the pre-order yet. You want ARC copies. And on your cover, you're putting something that says advanced reader copy, not for resale, advanced reader copy on sale, whatever date, which is what we did for this one. We took their cover. We took the cover, their final cover. We took it, we went into Canva, we followed the specs, and we added a little like gold sticker, kind of like a badge on it. And in there, we put the words advanced reader copy, and then we put a banner across the top of the cover that said advanced reader copy, not for resale. I think we might have at somewhere put on sale with the actual publication date. So we altered the cover a little bit. for the art copy that we then uploaded to Ingram Spark with that SKU number without using the ISBN, the SKU number, print their account only. We uploaded there. They ordered print copies of the ARC. And I have to say they turned out gorgeous also. So those are some options. And if you need additional help with that, if you want strategy for your launch, these are all things that New Shelves does. I do consult directly on that. So you can always reach out to me and we can talk about that if you'd like. See, I know I need to make changes to the text of the book, maybe 10 to 20%. Will this require a new ISBN number with a second edition? Or if I am changing the book cover title, subtitle remain the same, does this change require a new ISBN? Here is the thing. If you are changing grammatical mistakes, if you are, I realize that there are some grammatical mistakes and I'm uploading a new interior. You don't need a new ISBN. If you're adding or taking away content, you need a new edition of the book. So that would mean a new ISBN. If you are changing the book cover, but not the title or subtitle, this is one of those things that there are no firm rules for. If we were in traditional publishing and you were changing the cover, you would have a new ISBN. It would be a new edition. Sometimes in indie publishing, I have seen where people will change their cover and keep their ISBN number the same as long as the title and the subtitle are the same. So I think that is between you and your publishing plans. In most cases, I would say anything that might lead the reader to believe this book is a different book or it's got a significant change in content, you would want to do a new edition, which would also give it a new publication date of the current year, which can be helpful. So that's one of the things. And if it's something where you've got like 30 to 40% new content, especially for a nonfiction book, you would probably want to note on the listing or a sticker on the book that says updated. So that way it's, it shows that it's a new edition with new content. Now, if you are planning to change the title or subtitle or the author name, all of those things not only require a new ISBN, but also know that if you change the title, subtitle, or author name, that it's a brand new Amazon listing. Your Amazon reviews will not transfer over. You are basically starting from scratch. It is also required that if you're changing the title or the author name, that you are going to list that on the copyright page as previously published as old book title so that people know. It's also required according to Amazon terms of service and most other sales outlets that you put that information in the listing of the book. So you would have your book description and at the end you would say previously published or previously sold as the other title or the other title by the other author name. So you do have to disclose that because they don't want people to buy a book twice thinking, oh, this is a new book and I should, what am I trying to say? I should buy it again. And then they get it and realize, this is kind of familiar. No, we certainly do that sometimes where we read a book again. And we're like, I kind of recognize this. But if it's because you changed the title, the author name, cover, that's not okay. That's when we make readers angry or upset. So we don't want to do that. If you are going to buy a domain name for yourself as an author or a publisher, where do you go? This is up to you. You can go through like a hosting site like HostGator, GoDaddy, Bluehost. You can go through. There's all sorts of different hosts. I know just enough about websites to be very, very dangerous. So if you have extensive website questions, I would recommend you go to someone who is an expert in that. But as far as your domain name, you can buy from pretty much any hosting site, which is then who would host your website. GoDaddy, HostGator, Bluehost, as I said. And I know there's a bunch of others, maybe SiteGround. And that's who you would purchase the domain name through. And domain names are not typically very expensive. They're like $12.99 per year in most cases, unless you're trying to buy a domain name that has already been bought and you're kind of like buying it off of somebody, then they can jack the price up. and do things like that. So that's what I would say there. Let's see. And I'm not quite sure about your other question, Cheryl, about the photo. As far as giving credit in your book for art or photos, if you have an illustrator or someone else illustrated your book, it is often part of the agreement. It is also courtesy to outright, give them credit illustrated by. Now, this also depends on what the agreement was. Are you doing a royalty share with the illustrator? Did you outright pay them for a project, and part of that project was that you own full rights to the illustrations? Then in some cases you don't have to list the illustrator. So it does kind of depend on how you use those illustrations. If you are using photos um, on in the book, it again depends on what the purchasing rights were. Did you use photos that you outright purchased and you have an agreement saying that you have full rights to it? Does it say, a lot of agreements will say full rights with credit given to whatever the name is. So you really need to know how you source those illustrations or those photos. Um, excuse me, and then be able to credit that as is required in your agreement. Now, in some cases, if you are using something like, I don't know, clip art, you're using clip art that's like freely accessible, you bought it through the Noun project. You don't typically have to give credit for that, but you do need to go through and find out where you sourced your art and go from there. Oh yeah, if you used an app, no, you don't. Like if you used an app to illustrate yourself or make different art, you don't typically need to credit the app. No. All right. A question that came up, or something that came up this week, was about keywords. And we have talked about keywords a lot recently, which has inspired some of us to go and do some more research on our keywords and to change up our keywords, which I love. One of the things that I want to note is, as if your book has been published for a long while and you are updating your keywords, there are new questions in the back end of KDP now that you are probably going to be asked or required to answer in order to submit your new keywords. Most notably is there is a question that asks if there's any sexually explicit title or image in your book. And very often, this is a hard one for people to answer, because people might say, well, there is a love scene, or there's a closed door scene, or, who's it appropriate for? Well, there's also that question of like, is this appropriate for children? That kind of thing. And many times people lean conservatively. Well, maybe some parents wouldn't want their teens reading this or that kind of thing. And so I'm seeing people who are hitting the yes button that it does contain sexually explicit image or title, when it indeed does not. So I just want to remind all of you that as you're going through this, they are looking, really, they're looking for erotica. They're looking for people that have super steamy scenes. They're looking for images on a cover that are, erotic. And so in most cases, you're going to answer no to that. And I want you to be very careful not to, you want to be honest, but also you don't want to swing the other way, because what it does is it trips the Amazon algorithms. If you say yes, your book can now not be accessed through any account that doesn't track an age of 18 older, anyone who set their preference to not see anything for 18 older. And it also, in fact, makes it harder for people to organically see you. If you are selling erotica, that is perfectly fine. If that's what you're selling, the people who want it know how to find it. But the average person reading something that might have some kissing, or it's got a love scene or something like that, does not need to select yes. Now, paired with that, when we are doing research for our keywords, one of the things I saw this week is, if you're using software like Publisher Rocket or really anything, when you're doing your research, there are some keywords that will rank very high as far as getting responses. For example, for romances, one of the keywords is steamy. However, if your book is not steamy, and if you don't know what steamy is, your book is not steamy. steamy is typically a very specific readership. And so even if it ranks as a good keyword, we need to know if it's a good keyword for our book. So keep that in mind. We want to keep that off, because if you say yes on your sexually explicit question and add in keywords like steamy, you are absolutely going to end up with your book in erotica. I've seen this actually 3 times in the last month where people have updated this and done it. So many people do it. We just want to avoid that unless indeed your book is erotica. So be aware of that. The other question that you should answer if you haven't, as you're going through, is they will ask if any AI was used to create your book. Now, what they're doing is they're kind of creating a catalog of books that have AI or not. My guess is that they're doing this so that when or should the laws change of how AI has to be announced on a sales page or something like that, that they can easily do that with a click of a button. So it is smart when you're updating your listings to answer that question that way. If or when that happens, my guess is that they are doing this so that if or when something comes through saying that AI, you can use AI art in books, but it has to be listed somewhere on the product page, they are going to click a button and use all the answers that we've been providing for months or years and do that. And it is my guess that any book that has not answered that question is then going to be removed until the question is answered. So I would go ahead and just get that answer out of the way while you're updating anything in the back end of your KDP or keywords, and just answer. And also keep in mind that as you're updating things, you have to save each page, but saving the page does not update on Amazon. You have to go all the way through and hit the publish button on the pricing page. That is when all of your changes make effect. They actually go into effect. Before that, your changes are saved in the back end, but they're not pushed through on the Amazon site. They're not actually put into the algorithm in the metadata. So make sure that you hit the publish button to actually see all of your hard work happen. All right. See, I think that's all the questions we have up. We've got a couple more minutes. If you have any more questions, let me know. In the meantime, I would love to share with you guys just some information about the industry. As I said, I'm a newsletter junkie, and very excited to see that second quarter deals, so deals being made with traditional publishers for upcoming books. There is a lot happening both in sales and in deals. So deals are publishers buying books to publish later, and sales are our current sales figures. And sales have been up. In May, they were up for YA and adult fiction, and they were also, the deals have been up in adult books and really YA. Now, with that, the deals for picture books and middle grade are starting to fall. So just know that middle grade and picture books are a little low right now, but adult fiction is really rising. So it's great to kind of see those numbers. Now, we're not quite where we were in 2021, but we are seeing some really great numbers. And the reason why I watch these, and the reason why I think it's so important to watch the trends in the sales, is because in publishing, especially, traditional publishers are kind of predicting the future for the next 2 years. When they buy a book to publish, they are predicting the trend for the next 2 years, and they do a lot of research. They put a lot of money behind this. So I like to watch the numbers in the deals to see what publishers are investing in, because that gives us some insight to what might be happening in the industry in the next couple of years. And then I like to look at sales because I like to know what's selling right now. Why? Well, because what's trending right now? If you're seeing a slump in sales, are other people in that same genre seeing a slump in sales, or is it just you? I like to see it because what's selling right now can often indicate like what direction we're headed in the future. And it does definitely look like adult fiction, fantasy, romantasy is still absolutely running rampant and selling a lot. Romance is selling a lot. And YA is still selling quite a bit as well. So I like to know that. I think it's important to know. And I think it's just one of those things to keep your eye on. Now, as far as those children's books and the children's books and the middle grade falling, we've seen this for a while, and I honestly think a big part of this is just because our kids are getting on devices younger and younger. And so where we used to send them through the summer was where you read books, you played outside and you read books. And now the summer is where you play video games. And so I think honestly, that trend is not so much book specific. I think it is something that is about how we're living our lives and how our children are growing up now. And that is mostly on devices. And so I do wonder how that, if that will continue on as kids get a little bit older. I'm seeing more teens actually reading like print books because they're tired of devices by the time they get to their teenage years, which has been quite interesting because devices were not a thing until I was a teenager. Like my first phone was when I was 16 and I shared it with my mom. My mom and I worked together. And so whoever was not working, who was not at the shop, because my mom owned a shop, whoever was not working had the phone. So my mom and I shared a phone until I was almost 18, I think. So it's a different culture. And I think that's what we're seeing in some of these children's books and these middle grade books. And I'll be interested to see if it continues on or not. But that's my theory anyway. And again, this is why I like to look at the sales trends and everything, because I think it tells us an awful lot about where we're headed, how we can plan for the future, and how we can market our books now. All right, everybody, it's right at 11 o'clock, so we're going to hop off. I will be back again next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Again, you're welcome to join us live. If you think of questions today, tomorrow, throughout the week, you can just email them in to info@newshelves.com. I'll save them up and answer them next week, and you can certainly ask those questions live next week as well. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.